Have you ever woken up from a dream where you were, say, running a bakery on the moon with that one guy you sat next to in a meeting 3 years ago? You barely know his name. You've exchanged maybe 9 words, four of which were, "Is this seat taken?" And yet there he was, your trusted lunar business partner, helping you frost croissants in zero gravity. You wake up genuinely confused. Why him? Why now? Why the moon? Welcome to one of the strangest and most universal experiences of being human. Dreaming about people you barely know. Not your best friend, not your partner, not your mom, a barista, a guy from the gym, the cashier who once complimented your jacket. Your brain digs deep into its dusty archive of acquaintances and casts them in the lead role of a film you never agreed to produce. So, what is going on up there? Why does your brain spend its precious nighttime hours staging elaborate dramas featuring extras from your daily life? Let's dig into the wonderfully weird science of why we dream about near strangers, and why your brain is basically the world's most chaotic casting director. First, we need to understand what dreaming actually is, because it's nowhere near as romantic as poets would have you believe. Dreaming mostly happens during REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement, the stage where your eyes dart around under your eyelids like you're watching an invisible tennis match. During REM, your brain is wildly, almost suspiciously active. In some ways, it's nearly as busy as when you're awake. The difference is there's no adult supervision. Here's the key part. While you're dreaming, the logical, sensible part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, essentially clocks out for the night. This is the region responsible for reasoning, judgment, and asking sensible questions like, wait, why am I on the moon? When it goes quiet, the rest of your brain throws a party with no chaperone. That's why dreams feel completely normal while you're in them. Your inner fact checker has left the building, so nothing seems strange, not even the lunar bakery. Now, into this unsupervised chaos comes one of the leading scientific explanations for dreaming: memory consolidation. While you sleep, your brain is sorting through the enormous pile of information it collected during the day. It's deciding what to keep, what to toss, and how to file everything away. Think of it as a slightly disorganized librarian working the night shift, shelving memories. Except this librarian occasionally grabs random books and just starts reading them aloud for fun. And this is where the near strangers come in. Throughout your day, your brain quietly records far more than you consciously notice. That guy from the meeting? Logged. The barista's face? Filed. The person who held the elevator? Stored in a folder somewhere. You didn't decide to remember them, but your brain is a relentless little hoarder that grabs everything just in case. So when it's shuffling the deck at night, these minor characters are right there in the pile, ready to be dealt into the dream. But why do they get starring roles instead of staying as background blur? Here's one fascinating theory. Your dreaming brain isn't great at precision casting. It's more like it knows the rough shape of who it needs for a scene, then reaches for whoever's vaguely nearby in memory. It needs a person in a slightly unfamiliar setting. And instead of pulling someone close to you, it grabs a face that's recent, recognizable, but emotionally neutral. Acquaintances are perfect for this. They're familiar enough to recognize, but blank enough that your brain can project anything onto them. They're the stock photos of your subconscious. There's also the simple matter of novelty. Your brain finds new and unusual things interesting, and a near stranger is, by definition, an underexplored character. Your best friend? Your brain already knows that file inside and out. But the mysterious coworker you've never really spoken to is a delicious little question mark. And the dreaming brain loves filling in question marks with absolute nonsense. Now let's talk about the emotional angle, because this is where it gets a little more meaningful and a lot more relatable. Sometimes we dream about acquaintances not because of who they are, but because of what they represent. The mind is deeply symbolic, especially when the logical cortex is napping. That person from the gym might not be appearing as themselves at all. They might be standing in for a feeling, a worry, or some half formed thought your brain is trying to process. Maybe that near stranger gave you a vague impression, confidence, awkwardness, mystery, mild annoyance, and your brain files them under that emotion rather than under their actual identity. So when it's processing that same emotion later, it reaches for the face attached to it. You're not really dreaming about them, you're dreaming about a feeling that happens to be wearing their face, which is either profound or deeply unfair to that poor person, depending on how you look at it. This connects to another idea worth mentioning. The continual activation theory suggests that dreams help transfer memories from short term to long term storage, and that the brain pulls in whatever's been recently activated, even faintly. So if you saw someone for 2 seconds that day, that brief activation might be enough to qualify them for a cameo. Your brain isn't being thoughtful about it. It's basically grabbing the nearest face off the shelf and saying, "You'll do." And here's a delightfully humbling thought to sit with. If your brain is casting near strangers in your dreams, then somewhere out there, you are the near stranger in someone else's dream. Right now, a person you barely remember might be dreaming about you piloting a submarine or selling them a haunted umbrella. You are someone's confusing background character. We are all extras in each other's nighttime films, and frankly, none of us signed a release form. Of course, it's worth being honest about the limits of all this. The truth is, dream science is still a gloriously messy frontier. Researchers broadly agree on what's happening physically in the brain, the REM stages, the activity, the consolidation, but the exact reason behind the specific content of any given dream remains genuinely mysterious. Nobody can tell you with certainty why it was the moon, why it was croissants, or why it was that specific guy. Science can explain the mechanism, it cannot explain the lunar bakery. At least, not yet. What we can say is that dreaming about acquaintances is completely normal and almost certainly not a secret message. You don't have a hidden crush on the elevator person. The barista isn't your destiny. Your brain is simply a magnificent, slightly unhinged storyteller that grabs whatever raw material is lying around, recent faces, stray emotions, random anxieties, and stitches them into a narrative while you drool peacefully into your pillow. So the next time you wake up baffled, wondering why on earth you dreamt about someone you've spoken to twice, try not to overthink it. Your brain wasn't sending you a coded warning or revealing your deepest secrets. It was just doing late night maintenance, filing memories, processing feelings, and occasionally improvising a surreal short film starring whoever happened to be nearby in your mental storage closet. In a strange way, it's kind of beautiful. Every person you've ever glimpsed, every face you've half noticed, leaves a tiny imprint somewhere in your mind. They're not gone. They're just waiting in the wings, ready to be summoned for a one-night-only performance in the theater of your sleep. You contain a whole cast of thousands, most of whom you've forgotten you ever met. And somewhere tonight, your brain is reviewing the lineup, choosing tonight's guest star, and preparing yet another show that makes absolutely no sense and yet feels, for those few hours, completely real. The Moon Bakery awaits. The croissants won't frost themselves. And that guy from the meeting has no idea he's about to clock in for another shift.